Today's November 13th, 2017. It's a Monday. John's in the office. Let's start off with Bitcoin.
Yeah, because not every weekend that you get a 15% move in anything.
I know, it's like
anything.
Well, the thing started off with the Segway not getting the 2x Bitcoin. And folks that are listening out there was supposed to be like a fork or a split. And, you know, if you're thinking in terms of stocks, if you're listening to this.
Or in terms of roads. You come to a fork in the road.
Yeah, and they didn't get it, so then it spiked up to $7,800 per Bitcoin.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden everybody's like, well, geez, I'm not getting the dividend. And then it dropped. And then it was okay, and then it dropped some more. And then it's like, okay, and then it dropped some more.
In a 48-hour period.
And then the weekend hit.
Yeah.
It dropped some more.
In a 48-hour period, I think, folks, it may have touched 7,800 and 5,800 for the Bitcoin.
Yeah, the 50
BTC.
It did go below 6,000. So, and then of course it recovered, and then now there's this story about Bitcoin Cash,
which has freaking jumped all over the place too.
So there's every day there's like a new story. But one of the interesting things that we're going to bring to you today is a site, and we're going to put a link to this. It's on Bitcoin Volatility.
Yep.
And what is it?
We'll embed it in there.
Yeah, we'll put a link.
Bitcoin Vol today, and this is 30-day Bitcoin to the U.S. dollar, folks. Since most of you listening are probably listening in, how is it in terms of U.S. dollar? Of course, it prices in terms of euros and everything else too. But since we're in the United States, we'll do dollar. So the 30-day estimate is just shy of 4%, 3.81%.
And people at home are like, "Oh, that's low."
Yeah,
the regular
3%.
The Vol's at 10 here in the United States. The COB's only 10. That's even lower.
But wait,
there's more.
That's the implied volatility of the VIX is 10 or 11. The movement that implies is way less than a 1% move. I mean, 16, as you've heard us say many times, folks, you take the square root of 256, it happens to be 16. That's the approximate number of trading days in a year. Now, for some of you persnickety folks who will say, well, but because Bitcoin trades 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which you would be correct, the calculation would be different. I'll give you that. But for the time being, just so we can compare the VIX of the S&P 500 to the VIX of Bitcoin, we're going to have to do it this way. Otherwise, the whole calculation gets even more skewed. So, for instance, a 16 VIX means we're looking at 1% moves out of the S&P, which we haven't had 1% moves out of the S&P. If you get 0.5%, that's an 8. In other words, half of 16 is 8, and so forth. Well, right now, the 30-day for the Bitcoin Volatility Index is 3.81. So here, Andrew, let me bring up my calculator here. 3.81 times 16. So to take it from percentage, which they had it at, to a normal reading like a VIX, if our VIX is 11 for the S&P, the VIX for the 30-day Bitcoin is 61. 61.
We haven't seen that.
You imagine if you had a volatility index of 61 for a market? Now,
I do. I remember when the VIX, they listed 100s.
Yep.
So, yes, you're getting a...
In 2000, in 2008, 2009, we were approaching those kinds of numbers. And the market was scary as hell. Well, that's just normal.
So let me ask you this: so this link
Bitcoin,
the link that we're going to put,
which isn't bad, by the way, it gives you something to trade. Everybody says, "Well, watching the markets like watching paint dry."
Not here.
You are not wrong. But watching and trading Bitcoin and Litecoin and Ethereum and Bitcoin Cash is completely different.
Totally.
Than watching the S&P 500.
It's like another world. So I'll put a link to this in the description on our video. So you just take that number right today. It's 381, and just times it by 16.
Yep.
And you're in the 60s.
Yep. That'll give you approximately versus the S&P 500 VIX, which today is 11, let's say, this is 6 times bigger than that, 6 times more as far as the movement that it is foretelling with this. And again, this is a look back. This is the 30-day. So it doesn't take into full account, Andrew, the weekend where our friend, my friend, Evelyn Chang at CNBC, put up an article about Bitcoin briefly drops 15% in rocky weekend. So if we can, we'll put up a link to that article too, folks. But she's quoting people from CoinDesk and other areas looking at that move, which, like she says, Bitcoin touched 7,800 last week. On the lows, Bitcoin traded to $5,507.
Over the weekend, 55.
This is, again, Evelyn Chang's work at CNBC. This isn't like some yokel at some online, blog somewhere. This is a real journalist. And I'll also point out for you, folks, that Bitcoin Cash, which Andrew talks about a lot because this is one of the forks, one of the spin-offs out of Bitcoin, well, that hit a high of $2,477 overnight and then dropped 50%. 50% overnight and traded down to 1224. Now
this is fun.
At mid-session today, Bitcoin Cash is trading at 1409.94. That's as of 12:26 Central Time. So these numbers, folks, are incredible, but it gives you an idea, and it's also why we're talking about it.
Yeah.
Because we're not just talking about it. Andrew and I are trading it.
Yeah.
And we've got 3 young guys that are trading this thing. One of them binge trades at 20 hours a day sometimes.
He needs to keep his eyes on the school books. That's the other thing. These kids are young that are trading it.
Millennials love this damn thing. And just like when I first got my brother Pete into the business, Andrew, Pete could trade bigger than I ever traded. With no sweat, he just did. But these young men and women, I'm sure, that are trading this, and I don't mean, okay, if you're smart enough or lucky enough to have bought Bitcoin at, say, 1,000, and it's 6,000, you made 6 times your money. We can all do the math. But that's not trading. That's a lucky purchase. You put it away, you lost it, you did whatever, and then you found it and said, oh, wow, look at this. It's now at $6,000. I don't give that person the same credit that I give the persons who are trading, because there's much more opportunity in trading.
And they're doing it in altcoins.
Yeah.
These alternative coins,
yeah.
Which is another story.
Again,
that's a whole other podcast.
Neocoin is $28. Litecoin is $60. Dash is $431.
Dash was $287 a week ago. It was under $300.
Look at that, folks.
It's $431 a share. That's the one that sponsored Max Kaiser's trip.
Yeah.
Around the country.
Why do you think they did it? So Max would talk about it all the time.
Dash.
We got to get one of these coins to sponsor us, Andrew. Sponsor the podcast.
The Great American Trip.
That's if we don't already do our own to sponsor the podcast.
Well, we were going to go over to England and Geneva at the end of the month, so we'll be podcasting and vlogging from there.
And wait till you see the enthusiasm, Andrew, that people have overseas for ICOs, which are initial currency offerings, and for Bitcoin and the cryptocurrencies, altcoins, whatever you want to call them. It is amazing, folks. Amazing. And it's coming. It's coming here, too.
It's like soccer.
Yep.
It's coming.
Well, and soccer probably is getting here faster because of what the NFL's doing still. Although this weekend, apparently, at least up until Sunday night, Andrew, I heard that only 2 players kneeled over the weekend.
Really?
Because they made a concerted effort to say, look, do you guys really know what you're protesting? And protesting
Honestly,
the flag and the Fed versus, individual jurisdictions where maybe you believe that, kids are being shot in inordinate numbers to the amount of crime in that area or whatever. Okay, we all get it. Nobody wants to see young African-American kids, Hispanic kids, Asian kids, white kids. I don't want to see anybody shot that doesn't deserve to be shot. All I'm saying is I think there's better time to protest than during the national anthem. And I wish Roger Goodell would have carved out a time for them to do that.
I'm so disconnected from football. I didn't even know.
I haven't watched a game this year.
Dude, and I didn't know it was like week 9. And then somebody tweeted out that the Giants, I think it was Josh Brown, he said the Giants and the San Francisco hasn't won a game all year.
They finally beat the Giants.
Did they beat?
They beat them Sunday.
Oh, I didn't even realize it. But I had to look up their record. I'm like, oh my God, they haven't won a game all year. And they were.
By the way, the only 2 players that knelt during the anthem, San Francisco 49ers.
And then they won.
They won.
Mm.
By the way, their stadium, they're barely putting 55, 60% into the stadium. There are so many empty seats.
And that was like a big thing.
And that's in
like
California, my friends.
And they used to say that the Niners, so there's somebody that had season tickets, my cousin, and they said that we're out because it's too expensive. You could probably walk in there for $20.
I'm sure you could. And there's probably other stadiums you could too. I'm not saying people are selling their season tickets or giving up like in the Packers where you will your tickets to your, favorite son or daughter. But it's having an impact. So you're right. It's having a big impact. It ain't just Papa John's. I saw bars. We're broadcasting from Chicago, folks. I saw bars in Chicago that were closed on Sunday.
What?
And they weren't closed in observation of anything except just there weren't enough people going out and drinking that are normally out there just stacked, 5 deep in the bars. I'm talking Lincoln and Armitage, Andrew.
Really?
In that area.
That was closed.
Yeah. Not all the bars, just
okay.
a random bar or two. But can you imagine on a weekend when you've got football on that bars are closed? I mean, I'm telling you, there's going to be a big deal about how much people are missing from the fantasy games and everything. It's not just Papa John's. It's going to be a whole bunch of stuff that is going to be showing some cracks from the NFL.
I guess we'll know when the Super Bowl comes around.
True.
And the ad sales for that. All right, so speaking of, because we don't have much more time on this podcast, but what are we trading today in regular stock land?
All right, let's take a look at a couple. Let's see. How about SYF? S like Sierra, Y like Yahoo, F like Frank. SYF, bullish put selling. These were real puts, too. They're selling $3.90 puts. There was an open interest of 1, so these aren't closing, folks. These are new put sales. With the stock at $32.39, they were selling in-the-money puts. That's somebody that wants to own the stock. ROKU, still upside call buying. And look at this, Andrew. I mean, they bought the calls from $1.15 to $8 today. That's trading like Bitcoin, where it's moving like, that much.
Trading like Bitcoin.
And lastly, Micron, Pete cited it Friday. We've got more of them again today. Weekly, next week, not this week, next week expiration. No 4250 calls. Watch it. That's Micron, MU.
Okay.
All right. More on cryptos.
Yeah.
On volatility for cryptos. And, of course, some of the insights on Investitute. By the way, we're adding blockchain on there soon, Andrew.
What?
We're going to have blockchain courses on Investitute as well as...
Gotta go where the action is, and this is where the action is. So
you bet.
Just heads up, folks.
Remember, you can subscribe on Google Play, iTunes, or YouTube. Leave us a comment. Thanks for joining us.